The next time someone tries to shame you, I want you to notice something you've probably never noticed before. They don't actually want you to feel bad, not really. They want you to shrink. They want your face to change, your voice to soften, your spine to bend, just enough so they can feel taller without earning it. And here's the part that's going to sting a little, but also set you free. Shame only works when you help it. I don't mean you deserve it. I mean the mechanism itself needs your participation. It needs you to accept their frame. It needs you to start defending, explaining, apologizing for existing. It needs you to go, wait, let me clarify while your heart's racing. And suddenly the conversation is no longer about what's true. It's about whether you're allowed to stand there as yourself. So if you've ever been shamed online in your family, at work, in a relationship, and you walked away replaying it for 3 days, writing imaginary comebacks in the shower, you're not weak, you're normal. Shame is one of the oldest social weapons we have. It's basically a remote control people try to use to move you without music touching you. And Machiavelli of all people understood music exactly how that remote control works. Not in the become a villain way people like to twist him into. Not in the music destroy your enemy's fantasy. Machiavelli's real edge is colder, more practical, and honestly more humane than you'd expect. Because his secret isn't music rage. It's emotional elimination, not elimination of the person. Elimination of their leverage over your inner world. A shame attack is leverage. It's an attempt to take something inside you, your identity, your dignity, your social standing, and hold it hostage. And when you learn how to eliminate the leverage, something almost creepy happens. They can still say the words, but the words stop landing. Music, they bounce. And then because humans are humans, the person who tried to shame you has to deal with a new problem. They exposed themselves. They showed the room what they are willing to do to feel powerful. And now you're the calm one. You're the one who didn't flinch. And that shift, that tiny shift, destroys the entire strategy because shame isn't a fist. It's a performance. It needs an audience and a reaction. No reaction, no show. Now listen, I'm going to be balanced with you. Some people who shame you are just clumsy. They're insecure. They're repeating what was done to them. They might even care about you and be doing it in a messy way. So, I'm not giving you a one-size-fits-all humiliate them back playbook. What I'm giving you is something better. A way to walk through shame attempts music with your dignity intact, your emotions intact, your options intact. Sometimes that will mean disengaging. Sometimes it will mean confronting. Sometimes it will mean letting the comments slide like water off a jacket. But every music time you'll be choosing, not reacting. And I want you to stay to the end because the last piece, what Machiavelli would call the final position, is where this becomes permanent. Like shame stops being a recurring nightmare in your life and becomes background noise. Annoying but irrelevant. Okay, start here. Shame has 2 layers. Layer 1 is the content, the words, the accusation, the label. You're embarrassing. You're desperate. You're so sensitive. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Layer 2 is the hidden demand. Become smaller so I can feel safe. Most people fight layer 1. They argue the content, and that's why they lose, because the content is almost never the real point. If someone calls you desperate, and you start listing reasons you're not desperate, you've already accepted their authority to define you. You've already stepped into their courtroom as the defendant. Machiavelli would say you just walked into their fortress. Instead, you target layer 2, the hidden demand. You neutralize the demand by refusing the frame. Frame is everything. If you've ever watched 2 people argue and thought, wait, they're not even arguing the same thing, that's frame war. One person is arguing facts, the other is arguing status. Music, the other is arguing who gets to decide what's normal. Shame is a status attack, so the first move is not a comeback. Music, it's a pause. And I know pauses sound stupid like self-help fluff. But don't underestimate a pause. A pause is a refusal to be dragged. A pause says, I'm not running your script, here's how it looks in real life. Someone says, wow, you're really going to wear that? Old, you might laugh nervously and say, it's not that bad or it was on sale or whatever, it's comfortable. The pause is you just looking at them for a second. Not in a dramatic way, just a beat. Then you say something simple. Are you trying to be helpful or are you trying to take a shot? That sentence is a blade wrapped in silk because it forces them into music daylight. They can't hide behind just joking as easily. They have to declare intent. Music, and even if they lie, everyone feels the shift. You're not defending the outfit. You're questioning the behavior. That's Machiavelli. Don't chase the insult. Make the insult chase you. Here's another. Someone says, "You're so emotional, God." Pause. Maybe. But what are you trying to accomplish by saying that? Notice what you're doing. You're not saying I'm not emotional. You're not proving your rationality like you're auditioning for their approval. You're asking, what is the purpose of your move? That's emotional elimination in the first form, removing their ability to define the battlefield. Now I can already hear a certain type of person watching this and going, that's manipulative. Let's be honest, shame is manipulative. Music, you're not manipulating them, you're stopping them from manipulating you. Music, and there's a difference between playing games and refusing to be played. Okay, but what if it's more brutal than a snide comment? Music. What if it's public humiliation, a boss in a meeting, a family member at dinner, a friend who turns a private insecurity into a joke, someone online trying to dogpile you? This is where Machiavelli's deeper logic kicks in. People respect what they fear losing. And I don't mean fear as in terror, I mean the social consequence of crossing a boundary. If someone learns they can shame you and you'll still stay polite, still be available, still try to win them back, they will keep using that lever. Not because they're evil, because it works. So the second move is create cost. Cost doesn't have to be screaming. Cost doesn't have to be revenge. Cost can be as quiet as withdrawal. Let me give you an example that feels too real. You're at dinner with family. Someone says, "So how's that little project of yours going? Still pretending it's a career?" Everyone laughs awkwardly. Your stomach drops. You feel 14 again. The normal response is either to laugh along, which feels like swallowing glass, or to fight, which makes you look overly sensitive, which is exactly the trap. Cost is different. You don't debate whether it's a real career. You say calmly, "Don't talk to me like that." And then you stop talking, and yes, it will be uncomfortable. The silence will feel like you're breaking some ancient family rule. Music, that discomfort is the price of dignity. Then if they push, "Oh my God, it was a joke," you don't argue. You repeat the boundary, music slightly shorter. Don't. And here's the part most people skip. Music, the part that makes boundaries real. If they do it again later, you leave earlier. You stop attending as often. You shorten calls. You become less reachable. No speech, no dramatic exit, just reduced access. That is Machiavellian without being cruel. Music, it's simply reality-based. If you shame me, you get less of me. People learn fast. Now, will some people call you cold? Yeah, they will. Because you're no longer letting them use you as a punching bag. And that for some people feels like betrayal. But it's not betrayal. It's graduation. Okay, let's go deeper. Why does shame hit so hard? Because it attacks two things at once: your self-image and your belonging. Humans are wired to fear social exile. At some level, shame says you are at risk of being pushed out. That's why a single comment can make you spiral. It's not the comment, it's the ancient alarm system. So to eliminate shame emotionally, you don't just need tactics. You need a new internal structure. Machiavelli wrote for princes, for rulers, for people whose survival depended on perception. He understood something modern people forget. Reputation is a resource, but it's not your soul. When someone shames you, they're trying to fuse your reputation with your identity. They want you to believe, if they think I'm pathetic, I am pathetic. That fusion is the weakness. So the third move is separation. You separate who you are from what is being said about you. You can even say it to yourself in the moment like a music quiet note. That's their narrative, not my reality. Or even simpler, that's noise. Not denial, not pretending you're unaffected. Music, just classification. Because once something is classified as noise, you stop negotiating with it. And then you can decide, do I respond because it's strategically useful, or do I let them talk into the void? Now, the most dangerous thing here is overcorrecting, becoming numb, becoming arrogant, acting like you're above everything. That's not strength. That's armor that rusts you from the inside. Emotional elimination isn't emotional death. It's emotional sovereignty. You still feel things. You just don't let other people steer the wheel. Let's talk about the 4 types of shamers, because not every shame attack is the same. And if you treat them the same, you'll either escalate unnecessarily, or you'll stay stuck. Type 1, the clumsy shamer. This person says harsh things but genuinely thinks it. Motivates people, like I'm just being honest. They often grew up in a shame-heavy environment. With them, the best move is the intent question. What do you want me to do with that? Or say that again, but in a way that's actually useful. This gives them a chance to shift from shaming to communicating. Music, sometimes it works. Sometimes you realize they're not clumsy. They're just hiding behind clumsiness. Type 2, the status shamer. They shame to climb. Music, they do it in groups. They do it subtly. They do it when there's an audience. Your move here is calm public framing. You say something that labels the move without looking emotional. Example, music, that's a weird thing to say out loud, or I'm not sure why you think that's appropriate. These sentences are powerful because they don't argue content. They highlight social violation. You're basically saying, the problem isn't me. The problem is you choosing to do that here and the audience feels it. Type 3, the intimate shamer. This one hurts the most because it comes from someone close. A partner, a parent, a close friend. They know your soft spots and they poke them. With intimate shamers, the key isn't cleverness, music, it's consequence. Because if someone close shames you repeatedly and you keep rewarding them with closeness, your nervous system learns love equals humiliation. That's poison. So you set a boundary and you back music it with distance, even small distance. I'm not continuing this conversation if you talk to me like that. Then you actually stop. You hang up, you leave the room, you end the chat. No lectures, no begging, just exit. That's not cruelty, that's self-respect. Type 4, the opportunistic shamer. Online, strangers, people who barely know you. They shame because it's entertainment. Music, they want a reaction. With them, the move is almost always starve it. Don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Don't hand them your emotional blood and call it dialogue. If you respond at all, respond once calmly with a boundary or clarification and then stop or don't respond. Block, mute, move on. That's not weakness. That's refusing to donate your life force to a stranger's music boredom. Now let's get into Machiavelli's secret, the part people rarely talk about. He understood that power is not just what you can do. Power is what you can make others' music believe you can do. And shame is a belief weapon. If someone believes you can be controlled by embarrassment, they will try to control you with embarrassment. So emotional elimination is about changing what you signal, not in a fake way, in a consistent way. Here's the signal you want to build over time. I do not negotiate with disrespect. That's it. Simple. Repeated. And you build that signal with patterns, not speeches. If someone shames you and you keep laughing awkwardly, you're signaling this works on me. If someone shames you and you calmly call it out or exit, you're signaling, try a different strategy. Over time, the shame attempts drop. It's almost boring how predictable it is. Because most shamers are not brave. They are not looking for a fair fight. They are looking for easy leverage. Take away the leverage, they move on. Now, here's a tricky part. What if the shame is true? What if you did mess up? What if you actually were wrong? This is where emotional elimination becomes maturity instead of ego. If someone says you really handled that badly and they're right, your job is not to prevent discomfort. Your job is to prevent humiliation. There's a difference. Discomfort is growth. Humiliation is domination. So if the criticism is valid, you can take it without giving them power. Try this. You're right. I could have handled that better. Music, then stop. No excuses, no self-flagellation, no begging for forgiveness music like you're trying to erase yourself. Just ownership. That response is nuclear because it removes the shame hook. Shame needs you to defend your identity. When you calmly own a flaw, you become unshameable. And that's not motivational nonsense. That's literally how the mechanism works. You can't weaponize an insecurity someone already holds gently in their own hands. This is why Machiavelli valued composure. Not because he was emotionless, but because composure makes you unpredictable to manipulators. Now, let's talk about the inner part. Because tactics without inner work turn you into a polished reactor. Like you say the right line, but you're shaking inside. We want alignment. So here's the internal practice. Pre-commitment. Before you walk into spaces where you might be shamed, music, family gatherings, certain friend groups, competitive, workplaces, you decide your rules ahead of time. Not rules for them, rules for you. Things like, if someone mocks my goals, I will not justify them. If someone speaks to me with contempt, I will end the conversation. If someone tries to embarrass me publicly, I will respond once, calmly, and then redirect. Pre-commitment is powerful because it removes the moment of impact confusion. Shame works best when you're surprised and scrambling. Pre-commitment says, I already know what I do when this happens. That's sovereignty and it's not rigid. You can adjust as you learn. But having any plan at all will change your life. Okay, let me give you a story that might feel familiar. Imagine you're with a group and someone says, "You always music have to make everything so serious." Everyone chuckles. You feel heat rise in your chest. You think, are they right? Am I annoying? Should I shut up? This is where most people self-betray. Music, they retreat, they go quiet, they try to become less. But here's a Machiavellian move that isn't cruel. It's just clean. You say lightly, maybe. But I like depth. If you don't have to stay in the conversation. Not aggressive, not needy, just honest. And then you keep talking to the people who are interested. Or you switch topics without apologizing. That's emotional elimination. You didn't deny who you are, and you didn't beg for permission. You simply stated your preference and moved forward. Now, sometimes you won't nail it. Sometimes you'll freeze. Sometimes you'll laugh along and hate yourself later. If that's you, I'm not going to shame you for being shamed. That would be insane. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is reducing the number of times you abandon yourself. Even going from 10 times a month to 7 times a month is progress. Because each time you hold your ground, your nervous system learns, we survive this. And that's what changes everything long term. Now, let's talk about something people don't like to admit. Some shame attacks work because there's a part of you that agrees, not fully, but enough. And that part is usually old, like childhood old. Maybe you grew up around people who made you feel like your needs were too much, or your ambition was arrogance, or your emotions were drama, or your boundaries were selfish. So when someone shames you now, it hits the bruise, not the skin. Machiavelli wouldn't talk about childhood the way we do, but he understood this principle. The most effective attack uses an existing weakness. So the fourth move is to remove the internal collaborator. You do that by naming the bruise privately. Later you ask yourself, what did their shame attempt say about me? And is that the story I'm secretly afraid is true? Example, they mocked your project. The story might be, I'm delusional, I'm not talented, I'm embarrassing. Okay, now we work with that. You don't fix it by saying, no, I'm not like a kid. You fix it by saying, even if I'm still learning, I'm allowed to try. Even if some people think it's embarrassing, I'm building something. Even if I fail, that doesn't make me worthless. That's not a pep talk, that's a new contract with yourself. When your internal contract music is solid, external shame has nowhere to stick. Because shame needs a crack. Now here's the part I promised. The part that makes music shame stop coming back. It's not the comebacks, it's not the boundaries. Those help, but they're not the music foundation. The foundation is building what Machiavelli would call a base of power. In modern terms, a life that is not dependent on the approval of people who don't respect you. If your entire sense of belonging comes from one group, one job, one relationship, shame becomes a hostage situation because the threat is if I don't comply, I'll be alone. So, your long-term move is diversification. Diversify your sources of validation, community, and self-worth. One friend group that music actually gets you, one skill you're improving, one private goal you're working on, one practice that reminds you who you are. Training, writing, making music, building something, learning something, whatever. When your life has multiple pillars, music a shamer can't knock you over by pushing one. And here's a weird benefit. People who shame you often sense when you have options. They sense when you're not desperate to be accepted, and they behave differently around you. Not because you're intimidating, but because you're not available for domination. That's the Prince logic. Not become a tyrant, become ungovernable by petty people. Now, music. I want to give you a concrete step-by-step response pattern you can use in almost any situation. Think of it like a simple protocol. Step 1, pause. Step 2, label or question intent. Step 3, set boundary or redirect. Step 4, apply cost if it repeats. Here are a few variations you can memorize without sounding like a robot. Pause. Do you hear yourself right now? Pause. What's your goal with that comment? Pause. I'm not available for being talked to like that. Pause. Let's keep it respectful. Pause. That's not accurate. And I'm moving on. If you're dealing with someone who gets a kick out of pushing, sometimes the best line is the calmest line. Okay. Not sarcastic, not defeated, just okay. Then change what you do next. Music, don't chase them. Don't ask for repair. Don't re-enter the ring, because a lot of shame is bait. Now if you're thinking, but won't this make me lonely? Won't I lose people? Yes, you might, but listen carefully. Music, you won't lose good people by having self-respect. You'll lose access points for disrespect, and it will feel like loss at first because your nervous system is used to confusing the two. If your history taught you that connection requires self-erasure, then boundaries will feel like abandonment. That's not a sign you're doing it wrong. That's a sign you're healing something. Okay, let's address the part of the title that's a little intense. Destroy anyone who shames you. If you take destroy literally, you'll end up becoming the same kind of person you hate. You'll become reactive. You'll become obsessed with winning. That's not power. That's dependency. Music's. So here's the real meaning. You destroy their strategy. You destroy the shame economy between you, music, and them. You destroy the role they're trying to assign you. And you do it by refusing to play. In Machiavelli's world, music, the most efficient victory, is the one that costs you the least and ends the conflict quickly. Emotional elimination is exactly music that. You don't spend 3 days fantasizing revenge, you don't spiral, you don't write essays in your head. You handle it cleanly and you move on with your life. That's the flex. Quiet, almost boring but unstoppable. Now let's go into a harder scenario. What if the shamer is someone with power over you? A boss, a teacher, someone who can affect your opportunities. You have to be strategic. Machiavelli would actually agree with that. He wasn't naive. With power shamers, direct confrontation can music backfire so your goal shifts. Minimize exposure, document patterns, music build leverage, and exit if needed. You can still use calm framing, but you music do. It carefully. Example, in a meeting, boss says, "Wow, that was a stupid question." You don't say, "Don't talk to me like that," in front of everyone if it will cost you your job tomorrow and you're not ready. Instead, you say evenly, "I'm asking so I can execute correctly," then move on. After the meeting, you can address it privately. When you called my question stupid in the meeting, it made it harder to communicate. I'd like feedback, but not like that. If they respond, well, great. If they don't, now you know what you're dealing with. And you start building your options, allies, transfers, new roles, new jobs. You document incidents. You protect yourself. That's balance. That's reality. Sometimes the most Machiavellian thing you can do is not fight the king in the throne room. It's to quietly build your own kingdom and leave. Now, let's talk about the internal aftermath, the part nobody sees. Even if you respond perfectly, shame can linger. You can still feel shaky. You can still replay it. So, here's a practice that helps eliminate the leftover poison. After a shame attempt, ask yourself 3 questions. What was said? What did I make it mean? What do I choose to mean instead? Example, you're embarrassing. What did I make it mean? That I'm not worthy? That I'm cringe? That I should stop? What do I choose yet to mean instead? That they're uncomfortable with visibility. Music, that I'm stepping outside a box, that not everyone will approve. And that's fine. You're not gaslighting yourself. You're reframing the meaning. Meaning is where shame lives. Change the meaning and the feeling loosens. Also, do one small act of self-respect right after something physical. Stand up straighter. Take a walk. Send one message to someone who supports you. Work on your thing for 10 minutes because your nervous system needs evidence. We didn't die. Okay, I want to hit one more angle because it's subtle. Sometimes people shame you because you're becoming dangerous in the best way. You're changing. You're improving. You're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't orbit them anymore. And that triggers something. So they try to pull you back with shame. They'll say you're fake, trying too hard, acting different, thinking you're better than everyone. If that's happening music to you, it doesn't automatically mean you're doing something right. But it often does. So your response is not to prove you're humble. Your response music is to stay steady. Yeah, I'm changing, simple. Or I'm trying to improve my life. Simple. No apology, because the truth is growth looks like betrayal to people who benefited from your smallness. Now at this point, I want you to imagine a future you. Like 6 months from now, music, someone tries to shame you and you feel the old surge starting, but then it stops. You pause, you see the move, and instead of collapsing inward, you stay upright. Not angry, not cold, just present. And you realize, oh, this is just someone trying to manage their music own discomfort by shrinking me. And you don't let them ever.